Hey, what's up, everybody? I was just reading Zechariah 4. It's the fifth vision, the lampstand and the olive tree. And it took me a minute, and I had to look a bunch of stuff up. But I think this is a really powerful story. It's talking about how uh, someone, I don't know, the angel who talked with me came again and wakened me, as one is wakened from sleep. So it doesn't say anything. I just am only reading this. I flipped over to it, but it's great. And he's talking about in his vision, he sees a lamp, right? He sees a lamp. It's a tall golden, it's like a tall golden base, right? A tall golden rod, and at the top of it, there's a bowl. And on top of that bowl, there's 7 lamps, and each lamp has 7 lips. Um, yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's talking about how the angel explains to him what it is, and he's saying that this is it's the word of the Lord, but it's not through might, it's not through power, but it's by the Holy Spirit, right? And so it's a testament to saying like God's working through the Holy Spirit. He's not going to work through money. He's not going to work through prestige. He's going to work through the Holy Spirit. Whoever believes, and is yeah, that's how he works through. And he's saying that and by that power, Zerubbabel he's gonna, he can turn a mountain into a plain, no problem. And that's something interesting that I think he says. It says, and he shall bring out the top stone amid shouts of grace, grace to it. And so that's interesting, because I think that's saying Zerubbabel can turn a mountain into a plain, no problem. He'll take the top stone from the very top, right after he has crumbled it to the ground. But by him saying grace, grace to it, that means he didn't want to. He had to. And the whole time he's screaming, grace, grace, give them grace. Give them mercy, right? God, give them grace. That's the mindset that the Holy Spirit gives people when they're working. I don't want harm. I don't want pain and suffering. What is the fastest possible route to stop that? So that God can shine through. And the Holy Spirit can do that. And then it goes through at the in 4:8. It starts talking about how the hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundations of this house, and so his hands are going to finish it. And so that's saying that Zerubbabel's hands are a channel for the Holy Spirit, or a channel for God because Zerubbabel is open to having the Holy Spirit work through him. And then I had to look this one up. This is Zechariah 4:10. For whoever has despised the day of small things shall rejoice and see the plummet in the hand of Zerubbabel. And for a minute I was like, wait a second. So whoever despised the day of small things, so whoever just was miserable and could not stand just living a simple life and enjoying things like having a cup of coffee in the morning. To people who are not content with that, people who want power, they want to reach, they want to just get it no matter what, right? They want money, they want status, no matter the cost, right? He's saying people who despised the day of small things shall rejoice and see the plummet in the hand of Zerubbabel. So he's saying that people who are like that, they're eventually going to be so convinced that Zerubbabel is the man that they're even going to be glad for him. Because that's how the Lord works. The Lord's not going to make you have continuous enemies. He's going to turn your enemies into your biggest supporters. It's just time and faith, right? And movement. It's obedience. These 7 are the eyes of the Lord, which range through the whole earth. So he's talking about the lamps on top. He's saying, the Lord's got these 7 eyes. And I think that this is a little bit of a metaphorical, like a symbolic statement. But he is saying that. Then I said to him, what are these olive trees at the right and the left of the lampstand? And a second time I said to him, what are these 2 branches of the olive tree which pour the oil into it, or pour out the oil through the 2 golden pipes? He said to me, "Do you not know what these are?" I said, "No, my Lord." Then he said, "These are the two anointed ones who stand by the Lord of the whole earth." You know, and I think that means that, we are not alone. Like, Yahweh, right? Maybe too, like, God is everything, right? You could look at it that. We could look at it scientifically, like, in some way. But look at Yahweh is everything. But he had to send us Jesus in order for Jesus to die for us, so that it was okay for us to be human, so to speak, and that we are still capable of being redeemed. Right? He died for the sin that's already within us, or he died for our sin. You know, that's a whole theological thing. But anyway, yeah, at this point they didn't have Jesus yet, so it's kind of like God had to send Jesus, right? But at the same time, like, we are not alone. Like, we have divinity pouring oil into us. You know what I mean? Or we have that. We just have to tune into it and live according to that. You know, and through that way of allowing this oil to be poured into us, this holy, the Holy Spirit allowing it to work through us. You know, we can be better servants to what, even in the early stages where it's confusing and you don't know exactly what's happening. But no, it's like, for instance, me, I'm not doing anything wrong in life, right? I feel free, I'm doing great, right on time. But according to a lot of people, you would say that what I'm doing is just kind of, it's crazy, it doesn't make sense. But to me, it makes perfect sense, because I like understand and I see the vision, and it's all rooted in such goodness that, like, there is no possible way that anybody could hate on me for what I'm actually doing. They make movies about people who do this shit. I'm just in it. So I'm at that part where everybody's saying, like, wow, you're a fucking retard. I mean, you're fucking stupid. Sorry. That's just where we're at, It's important to have that attitude. You got to look at it like that, And that's just a way to maintain one's faith. Where are you in the story arc? Because it's a very human story arc of anybody who transcends where they were and becomes more, right? There's a story arc there. You can learn from that story arc. Where are you in that journey? We're at the journey where we're learning that there's a peace in faith. And if we don't have that peace in our faith, then we don't really have faith. We just have a desire for faith. What does faith look like in action? But there's something else I wanted to say about this. These are the two anointed ones who stand by the Lord of the whole earth. Yeah, I feel like it means we are supported. We are supported, but we just have to believe that we're supported. You know what I mean? Which is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy because they get, like, for an example, we'll use a figure. I know I use Julius Caesar all the time, but they said he had a delusional self-belief. Right? A delusional self-belief. And in order, like, why would they call it delusional, right? If it didn't seem crazy to have a belief that was that strong that you couldn't necessarily touch, because that belief existed somewhere in the future, right? Holding on to something positive, like a rope, and pulling yourself towards it. But we're not. And if we really listen to what God is telling us, we're not alone. And it is better to act like you are being supported all the time and that you're not alone than it is to act like you're alone, right? Because we do have the Holy Spirit with us all the time. But it's interesting, he says there's the two anointed ones. And maybe there's some symbolism that could be taken there to, like, a person needing two angel wings, us needing two sides of the brain. We need a duality within us, So maybe it's not so much the lampshade in the middle and then the trees on the outside. Maybe it's kind of like there's a tree on the left and the right, and each is representative of one side of the lamp, right? But there is not 6 lamps, there's 7, which means that one of them is going to be the integration between the left and the right, which would be like your corpus callosum, which, like, is what connects the two pieces of your brain in the middle. And so it's the meeting together of that, and in that unification, you can reach out and touch the divine. I think the one short-sighted piece of psychotherapy is that there is not or I would say astrotheology or astrophysiology is that these things are purely physiological, and there's not necessarily any real divine aspect to it in our reality. All of the divine aspects could be explained away in physiological terms. I don't think that. I do believe that there are essences and spirits and energies that inhabit this world and are all over the place. And yeah, I do believe that very much so. But I also believe that this symbolism is telling us in this vision, because he says that the vision, he says, what is this vision? What am I seeing? And he said, it's the word of the Lord. So that means that lamp, and the way he described it, because that's what he noticed about it, right? And those trees is the word of the Lord. That is essentially a sigil, or that is a logos, that is a picture, that is a scene that contains all of the information that the Lord wants to tell Zerubbabel, right? Everything. If Zerubbabel meditates and ponders over what this thing is, then the Zerubbabel has the word of the Lord, and through that word of the Lord, Zerubbabel could turn a mountain into plains and want the best for that mountain the whole time. Like, never ever wish that mountain any harm, so to speak, right? While he's turning it into a plain. Or nothing but love the whole time. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a powerful thing. But anyway, we're gonna end it here. Hope you guys have a great day, and yeah, we'll see you soon.